There are silences that scream. The silence of a house that once teemed with life. The silence of a phone that will no longer ring with its name on the screen. And then, there is the silence of a funeral. A heavy, dense silence, broken only by stifled sobs and the murmur of condolences. On the day of my mother's funeral, the world seemed to have turned gray. Not just the sky, which threatened a cold, persistent rain, but everything. The vibrant colors of the flowers on the coffin seemed like a mockery, a cruel reminder of the life that had been extinguished. I sat in the front row, a place of honor that felt like a condemnation. Beside me, my sister, Elena. Elena was always the strong one. Or at least, that was the mask she wore to face the world. While I was falling apart inside, feeling each memory like a tiny needle in my heart, she remained impassive, a statue of contained pain. Or so I thought. The ceremony progressed, a litany of comforting words that consoled no one. The priest spoke of my mother's goodness, her generosity, her light. And every word was true. She was the sun. But even suns have spots, secrets they hold in their fiery core, invisible from a distance. It was then, as the choir sang a hymn Mama loved, that I felt the warmth of her breath on my ear. Elena's murmur was so low, so subtle, that for a second I thought I'd imagined it. "You shouldn't be here." The phrase, barely a breath of air, hit me with the force of a hurricane. The air escaped from my lungs. I looked at her face, searching for a sign, an explanation. But there was nothing. Only a coldness that was more chilling than the November wind that filtered through the church windows. Shouldn't I be here? At my own mother's funeral? The woman who gave me life, who read me stories until I fell asleep, who healed my scraped knees and my broken heart more times than I can count? The pain gave way to a searing confusion. What did that mean? The rest of the service passed in a haze. Elena's words bounced around in my head, drowning out memories and prayers. I felt the looks of those present, but I couldn't decipher whether they were of pity or judgment. Suddenly, I felt like an imposter, a stranger in my own tragedy. I always knew my relationship with Elena was complicated. We were like two planets in the same orbit, destined to revolve around the same sun, Mom, but always at a prudent distance. A gravitational pull prevented us from colliding or from straying too far apart. I was the dreamer, the artist, the one who left home to seek her own path. Elena was the pragmatist, the responsible one, the one who stayed, the one who cared for Mom in her final years. Perhaps that was it. Perhaps her pain, her resentment at the burden she had carried alone, had manifested itself in that cruel phrase. I tried to convince myself of it, but deep down, a seed of doubt had been planted. There was something else, something I didn't know. The days following the funeral were a blur of paperwork and emptiness. Mom's house, which had always smelled of freshly baked cookies and lavender, now smelled of dust and absence. Elena and I moved like ghosts among her things, each object a trigger for a memory, an open wound. She was methodical, efficient. I separated things into 3 piles: keep, donate, throw away. I, on the other hand, was lost. I sat on the floor with an old photo album, and the hours faded away. Our communication was minimal, functional. "Do you want the china plates?" "No, keep them." "What do we do with her clothes?" "Donate them." The gap between us had become an abyss. Her whisper in church hung in the air, unmentioned but always present. And then the call came. It was Mr. Morales, my mother's lawyer, an older man with a deep, measured voice who had known our family since before I was born. He summoned us to his office for the reading of the will. I told Elena. Her reaction was strange. She said nothing, but I saw her jaw tense. "Fine, let's get this over with." Get this over with. As if the last formal connection with our mother were a mere formality to be discarded. On the day of the appointment, the atmosphere in the car was icy. Elena drove with fierce concentration, her hands gripping the wheel. I gazed out the window, watching other people's lives pass by, wondering why ours had become so painfully entangled. Mr. Morales' office was a sanctuary of time. Everything seemed ancient, solemn. He offered us coffee, which we declined. The air was thick with an almost unbearable expectation. "I'm sorry again for your loss. Your mother, Isabel, was an exceptional woman. Elena nodded briefly without looking at him. I could only murmur, thank you. Okay, let's get to the point. Isabel was very clear with her last wishes. She left everything very well tied up. My heart began to beat strongly, not because of the money or the house, but because I felt that paper contained something more than a simple distribution of assets. I felt it contained the answer to my sister's whisper. I, Isabel Garcia, being of sound mind, declare this to be my last will and testament. Isabel has divided her material assets equally between the two of you. The house, her savings, the jewelry, everything 50-50. I glanced at Elena. Her expression didn't change. It was as if she'd been waiting for something else. However, there is an additional clause, and an addendum that your mother asked me to read personally in your presence. Here it is. I knew it at that instant. The gavel was about to fall. Clause 12b. It is my deepest wish that, before any of my assets are transferred, my two daughters, Elena and Sophia, receive and read together a letter that I have deposited with my lawyer. Furthermore, I leave a safety deposit box in Sophia's name, the contents of which are exclusively for her and may only be accessed by her. Sophia, me, a safety deposit box, just for me. The silence in the room became deafening. I felt Elena's gaze burning into my skin. I turned my head to meet her eyes, and for the first time since the funeral, I saw clear emotion in them. A mixture of rage and defeat? A boxed for her? And what about me? I was here. I took care of her. I sacrificed everything. You see? Always you. The favorite. Even now. This is why I told you you shouldn't have been there. Because none of this belongs to you. Her words were a flurry, but one sentence stood out above the rest. None of this belongs to you. It was more than a sister's resentment. It was a statement of fact, or at least of what she believed to be the facts. Elena, sit down. Your mother knew it. She knew this would be difficult. That's why she wrote the letter. Elena, trembling, sat back down. Mr. Morales handed us a yellowed envelope. It had my name and Elena's written on it in my mother's elegant, familiar handwriting. Let's read it together. With clumsy fingers, I broke the seal. Inside were several sheets of paper, covered from top to bottom with the blue ink Mom always used. My dear girls, Elena and Sophia. If you're reading this, it means I'm no longer with you. There are no words to express how much I love you and how sorry I am for the pain my departure causes you. And most of all, I'm sorry for the secrets I'm forced to reveal this way. My breath caught in my throat. Elena, my brave and loyal Elena, you've been my rock, my unconditional support. You've carried a weight no daughter should have to carry, and you've done it with a strength that fills me with pride. I know you resent your sister, and I know why. Because you know a part of the truth that Sophia doesn't. You think I've favored her, that I've loved her more. But I haven't, my love. I've protected her. Both of us. Protect us? From what? Sophia, my sweet, dreamy Sophia. There's something you should know. Something that will change the way you see the world, the way you see me and your sister. Elena was right when she told you that you shouldn't be at my funeral, or at least, not in the same capacity as her. I didn't understand anything. What was she saying? The reason you shouldn't be there is because I'm not your biological mother. The world stopped. The words hung in the air, meaningless. Wasn't she my mother? But her smile, her hugs, the mole next to her left eye, the way she hummed when she cooked. My whole life, every memory, was that a lie? I looked at Elena, and her gaze was no longer one of hatred. It was one of immense compassion, a shared sadness. I knew. I discovered it by accident a few years ago while looking for some papers. I wanted to tell you, but she made me swear that I wouldn't. She said it would destroy you. I turned to Mr. Morales, desperately searching for a denial. He simply nodded sadly. It's true, Sophia. Isabel adopted you when you were just a baby. The letter. I still held the letter in my hands. I needed to understand. Your biological mother was my little sister, Laura, my beloved Laura. She was a free soul, but tormented. She fell in love with the wrong man, a dangerous man who abandoned her when he found out she was pregnant with you. Laura was in no condition to care for you. She suffered from terrible depression. She begged me to take you in, to raise you as my own, to give you the stable, happy life she couldn't offer. She wanted us to disappear, to keep you safe from your father, in case he ever decided to look for you. My Aunt Laura. Mom always told me she died in a car accident when I was very young. Another lie, or perhaps a half-truth. I loved you from the moment I held you in my arms, Sophia. Not as a niece, but as my own daughter. There isn't a single cell in my body that hasn't considered you mine. My love for you is as real as the one I feel for Elena. But I lived with the terror that your father would return, that the truth would come out and hurt you. That's why I encouraged you to leave, to travel, to build your life far from here. I wanted you to be free and safe. The pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place, forming a picture that broke my heart. Her insistence that I study abroad, her relief whenever I told her I was happy in another city. It wasn't that she wanted me to leave, it was that she needed me to be safe. And Elena, who stayed, lived with the weight of that secret, seeing what she interpreted as preferential treatment, not understanding that it was a shield. The safe deposit box I left you, Sophia, contains everything I know about Laura and your father. There are letters from her, photographs, and a name. It's your story. Your right to know it. I don't know if he's still alive, or if he's a threat. But you're a strong woman now, and you deserve the truth. I free you from my fear. The decision of what to do with that information is yours alone. The silence in the office was no longer tense. It was filled with a new understanding. I looked at my sister, at Elena. Her resentment had dissolved, replaced by a vulnerability I'd never seen in her before. I'm sorry, Sophia. I'm so sorry for what I told you. I was blinded by pain and by secrecy. Every time Mom worried more about you, called you, sent you money, all I saw was the absent daughter who stole all the attention. I didn't see that she was protecting her most fragile treasure. I stood up and, for the first time in years, hugged my sister. At first, she stiffened, surprised, but then her arms wrapped around me tightly and she began to cry. We cried together. For the mother we had lost, for the years of misunderstandings, for the secrets that nearly destroyed us. We left the lawyer's office feeling strangely lighter. The will no longer mattered. The house, the money, they were just things. What we had found in that room was far more valuable. The truth. And hopefully, the beginning of a new relationship between Elena and me. A week later, here I am, in front of a safety deposit box. The key feels cold in my hand. Inside this metal box is my past. The story of a mother who loved me so much she gave me up. And of another mother who loved me so much she built a fortress of secrets to keep me safe. It contains the name of a father I never met. I don't know what I'll do with what I find. I do not know if I'll search for answers, or if I'll choose to leave the past alone. The life I knew collapsed in a lawyer's office, but amid the ruins, something new is beginning to grow. My mother, Isabel, the only mother I've ever known, gave me the greatest gift of all. It wasn't a material inheritance, it was the truth, and the freedom to choose my own path.
Sometimes the darkest secrets are kept for the purest love. I'd love to know what you would do in this situation. Leave it in the comments, and if you haven't already, subscribe so we can stay connected.